Welcome into the program, everybody. Welcome into the Farzy Show. Marc Farzetta with you here at the Steven Singer Studios. Listen, I'm going to be doing a little bit more of the production stuff again today. One of those days again. They're going to connect wires, whatever. I don't know how it all works, but I'll be manning the comments here, so I'll be able to pay attention to more things. We won't be on YouTube, at least not immediately. Somehow, magically, I don't even know how this is happening because apparently it died last week, but I'm still on Periscope. I might be the last person on the planet to use Periscope on Twitter. And I'll take it, and that's fine. And I wish I didn't announce that because some bell went off periscope.com or twitter.com, and they probably were like, get him. I don't know. But anyway, I'm just happy to be on with you guys here on this fine digital platform. I'll be able to follow everything when it comes to comments to the show, when it comes to people trying to track everything that we're talking about. We'll make sure we take care of that in our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine, coming up a little bit later in the program. Before that, we will talk to Matt Breen of Inquirer.com, Phillies beat writer, and I am beyond excited. I was down there yesterday. Not to watch the game, but to talk to you fine people of Philadelphia, you Philadelphia sports fans, you Phillies fans, to just talk to you about going back to Citizens Bank Park, going back to a ball game for the first time in well over a year, and what it was like to be down there for the opening series of the season in South Philadelphia. And I'll tell you this, and it's the Farzy in the Field segment today, brought to you by our friends at FanUp, and we'll play it for you later in the show. For me, it was like 2 minutes of Christmas morning. Going back down to Citizens Bank Park and talking to all you wonderful people, it was like Christmas morning. It was like getting to talk to people, getting to talk to little kids that were about to run down the steps and open presents. Like, it was just that great. Like, I had that excitement. I had that giddy. Walking up to the stadium, seeing the Schmidt statue, just seeing all the people that were out for that game. Like, especially where everyone was parking and the parade of people coming down the sidewalk by the ticket offices, down the third base side, seeing the parade of people, it just felt normal. There was nothing about it that seemed weird. Yeah, there was a sign that said, wear your mask. But other than that, and people were in masks. But other than that, it was just normal. It was the most normal I have felt probably since all this began over a year ago. Just being down at the ballpark, getting to talk to all you people, getting to talk to all you Philadelphia fans, getting to talk to all you Phillies fans was awesome. I loved every second of it, and I hope it comes across in our Farzy in the Field segment today because I can't wait to play it for you, basically. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the show, and rightfully so for how excited people are right now about this Phillies team. We got Eagles news in. We got some basketball news going on here, not necessarily involving the Sixers, but involving the Sixers with the way the Nets played last night against the Pelicans. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the show in our Morning Rush segment. But let's start things off with how those Phillies played yesterday, because we were talking yesterday about how the bats needed to come alive, how the pitching's been fine. I just need to see something from the Philadelphia Phillies, from their offense, and how their offense was going to handle things. And finally, you saw Rhys Hoskins, who has been great this entire homestand, the opening homestand of the series, of the season. You saw Rhys Hoskins go out there and belt a home run. Alec Boehm went out there and hit a bomb to left, just to center field, really, over the angled wall, as they say. Blasted that pitch. And then you also saw JT Realmuto go yard. All of these guys are getting off to strong starts to the season, and to see them go yard yesterday was great. And one of the things I've really been giving a lot of credit to Rhys Hoskins for is being more aggressive in his counts. Well, how about this? Or it is at bats. Yesterday, he drives a full count. He goes up to a full count, works a full count, 3-2 pitch, belts it over the right field wall. Actually goes opposite field. Rhys Hoskins goes opposite field yesterday. Goes with the pitch, protects the plate, doesn't want to look to walk, wants to make sure that he at least gets his team, make some contact and maybe get his team a run or two, and that's exactly what he does. This version of Rhys Hoskins is the Rhys Hoskins that we have come to know and love. I believe it's the old adage that home runs are mistakes. Well, for Rhys Hoskins, a lot of home runs or a lot of mistakes will be home runs for Rhys Hoskins, simply because he still has that power. I never believed that power went away. That's why I was so upset when I saw him being more passive at the plate, because I knew that power was there. If you can get that instant offense, as Joe Girardi talked about after last night's game, talking about how you can go up to the plate and sure, you can hit home runs, but getting on base is the way you're really going to produce runs. But home runs are a quick fix, if you will. They're instant gratification. I'll take it. If it's a guy like Rhys Hoskins, who I know can work a pitcher, if it's a guy like Rhys Hoskins, who I know when he drops a barrel of the bat on the ball can make it go, 400 feet, I'll take those swings. Especially if I know he's got the pitcher in a position where he has to throw a strike. Or if Rhys is going up to the plate, expecting to see a first pitch fastball, he is not afraid to jump on it. He is not afraid to get aggressive. This version of Rhys Hoskins is the guy that really can drive this lineup. If you have guys like Bryce Harper struggling out of the gate, or even JT Realmuto or Didi Gregorius, whoever it might be, this version of Rhys Hoskins can be a cornerstone, not just a nice piece to have, but a cornerstone for this Phillies offense. And if he's going to hit like this, maybe we got to talk about dropping him down in the order. And if this is the version of Rhys Hoskins we're going to get for 162, I'm excited to see it. I tweeted this out yesterday. I'm blown away by Alec Bohm. A couple of things for him. One, I went into the season knowing that this guy was going to hit, but seeing that home run yesterday, I was just thinking about how fun it's going to be to watch his career grow, because it's not just going to be about him as a hitter. I'm also excited to see how he grows as a third baseman. And I know we want to talk about, and we just did, Rhys Hoskins, great numbers, starting off the season great at the plate. But how about Alec Bohm starting off the season at third base? I mean, he has saved two separate line drives from going over his head with his huge, 6'5" frame that would have been probably doubles, both those hits that he's had in the opening homestand of the season. And you've seen him have soft hands when charging a ball, when it's bunt down the third base line, or when it's a slow tapper, slow dribbler down the third base line. His approach is great. His timing's great. His arm looks great. From last year to this year, just in the defensive category, Alec Bohm looks like such a better baseball player right now. And Matt Breen, who we talked to after the game yesterday, Matt Breen tells a story about, get ready for this, Philadelphia. I know we all love work ethic stories. I know I do. About Alec Bohm's work ethic. I was unaware of it, but this is exactly what you want to hear about a guy you're counting on to be a young, up-and-coming, if not already star in your lineup and in the field as well. So look forward to hearing that story from Matt Breen. And then yesterday, we got to talk about Aaron Nola. Wow. I don't know how he got through 4 innings, to be honest with you. But and I believe Aaron Nola is a great pitcher. When you're a great pitcher, you find a way to work through some innings. And he came up with so many issues, so many problems in the second inning, third inning, fourth inning. And he was finally he was able to work his way out of every single jam. And just through 4 innings of work, throwing 92 pitches, he allowed 1 run. Allowed a walk or 2 as well in his start yesterday. But he found a way to get out of those innings. And a lot of it was basically coming down to striking people out and getting himself out of jams that way. And seeing that 2-seam fastball cut in back on the plate. Seeing his curveball just snap, confusing the hell out of hitters. When he needed to get those get-out pitches, he got those get-out pitches. And after the game, I thought it was interesting. JT Realmuto was doing the post-game interview on NBC Sports Philadelphia, and he was asked about a starting pitcher. He was asked about Aaron Nola. And he said, yeah, he was a little bit more erratic than normal. I'm like, well, he's never really erratic, so any version of erratic is very abnormal for Aaron Nola. But he found a way to get through his innings, and that's what JT Realmuto talked about after the game, where he knew he had some offense early, and that's always great for a starting pitcher. He had some offense early, where he knew he didn't have to be perfect, but he knew he could take a couple of risks. For whatever reason, in his second start of the season, he definitely didn't have that normal control that we're used to seeing him have. But when he really needed to get out of innings, he was able to go to his pitches that he's found the most reliable. And watching him get out of the innings yesterday was just very comforting. I'll put it that way, because the last thing we needed after the great vibes that this homestand has created to open up the 2021 season was an awful start from Aaron Nola. And it wasn't a good start from Aaron Nola. 4 innings, still not good. But it was still at least a solid effort from the ace of your staff. Now you can take a step back. You can take a day. You can let the bullpen rest. Thank goodness for that. Well, you let Zach Wheeler think about his start going up against the Braves, and now you can look at the bats and say, wow, 8 runs in this game with an 8-2 win, and this was a game where your starter only gave you 4 innings, and the Phillies bullpen came in and said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, and allowed just one more run. That's been the best part of this entire the first 6 games of this the entire first 6 games of 162. But the best part of the first 2 series of the season, as I punch my microphone, was the bullpen. The bullpen was the star of the show. I mean, you had obviously Zach Wheeler. Damn it, you had Zach Wheeler go out there and he got you a couple of base knocks, a couple of RBIs, good for him. But really, if you said what was the best part about the first 6 games, it would be the bullpen. And when was the last time we could say that about a Phillies bullpen? You'd probably have to go back to the bridge to Lidge a million years ago. It was by far the best part. The new additions, Hector Neris, obviously it made you sweat a little bit, but still came up big. You had other things coming up here that just made you feel like you were taken care of in the bullpen. And the one blemish in the Phillies bullpen was a guy we were expecting to be that blemish, and that was Vince Velasquez. And we talked about it yesterday. We didn't go into it enough, though, when it came to at what point did you stop worrying? And this is one of the things I love so much about going down to the ballpark yesterday. I'm standing outside talking to people for Farzy in the field, and one of the security guys comes over to me. One of the guys at the gate. And he just comes over and we start chatting it up. And he's just like, first off, I appreciate him following the show. Thanks, brother. And he goes, at what point was Joe Girardi just going to give up? Like, at what point was he going to heed the warning and the advice of everybody that knows Vince Velasquez? And you see him in spring training. You saw him last year. At what point do you say, oh, Vince Velasquez is doing Vince Velasquez things, or he's about to do Vince Velasquez things? All right, let me give him the hook here. If that's the case, I would love for Joe Girardi to have done that sooner. Not happening. Didn't happen, obviously. But how many times is he going to allow it to happen? When we talk to Matt Breen coming up in a minute here, he'll walk us through everything about what the options are when it comes to Vince Velasquez. But I will tell you this, the term mop-up man will be used. The term mop-up man will be used for Vince Velasquez. Let's talk a little football, ladies and gentlemen. The Eagles went out there. Now, let me just say this. 2 weeks ago, I predicted that Howie Roseman was going to make people feel a lot better about the Philadelphia Eagles going into the 2021 NFL season. Although I don't like trading back, and I think trading back is a big deal. Although I don't like that, I'm surprised that it hasn't been met with more adversity. I'm surprised it hasn't been met with more people that are in my school of thinking saying, well, of course you traded back. You want to try to get 3 first-round picks next year? You can still get a decent player at 12? Yeah, fine. I'm surprised by how many people are okay with that still. I'm still not. I, again, go back to the little chart I made for you guys where I said, top 6 is more idiot-proof than top 12, especially for Howie Roseman, especially when it comes to some marquee targets that you could be using for your young quarterback and Jalen Hurts. Instead, that's not the case. They're going to be going back to 12 there. And we just had a great conversation yesterday with Mike K of NJ.com, who talked about possibly going the defensive route, if not trading back again in the NFL draft. So a lot of things we covered yesterday when it came to the NFL draft. But I did say at some point, Howie Roseman's going to make us think that he's had some kind of great offseason, and we're going to be feeling a lot different about him going into the 2021 football year. Going into the draft, I'm not there. Hopefully coming out of the draft, I feel a lot different. I'm rooting for Howie to make me wrong and a lot of us wrong, to be honest with you. Howie Roseman did 2 things yesterday that I loved. Number 1, Eric Wilson comes here, a linebacker from the Minnesota Vikings, an undrafted guy who had a lot to prove at the NFL level. He has certainly proved it. 120-plus tackles last season, 3 interceptions last season, can play the Will linebacker, can play the Mike linebacker for you. And right now, I think you have 2 spots that are sewn up in the linebacking positions for the Philadelphia Eagles. One is Alex Singleton, and the other is now Eric Wilson. And Eric Wilson is a very aggressive player, a high-energy guy, one of them high-motor guys. Not a name that the average NFL fan knows, but for the Eagles to go out there and actually bring in a linebacker of note, a proven commodity, that makes me excited about what this defense can do. And also, by the way, has a history with some of the coaching staff here in Philadelphia right now, people that coached him out there in Minnesota. So I'm excited that there's at least that familiarity there. And it's the second person they're bringing in here, Harris being the other, from the Minnesota Vikings, that also has familiarity with your coaching staff. So I love that. And you're bringing in a safety in that spot. Excuse me, you're bringing in a linebacker in another spot here that are guys of note. So you have upgraded your defense already from what you had last year. Awesome. Love to see that, Howie Roseman. The other thing, and I know there might be some giddiness because we know him, and that's Jordan Howard. He played 2 games last year for the Philadelphia Eagles. Played 2 games. Was down in Miami, came back to Philadelphia. Yeah. Anytime you can add a veteran running back to your offense, I'm fine. Anytime you can keep a veteran running back on your offense, I'm fine. They got to keep on building with this, though. I mean, I know you have Boston Scott. I'm a Boston Scott fan. Love Boston Scott. I don't know if it's a matter of making sure your offensive line stays healthy. I don't know if it's a matter of making sure you have great depth on your offensive line. But Miles Sanders, in my opinion, is so amazingly underused. And if you don't have a veteran to roll in there, if you don't have another guy like Boston Scott to put in there, a guy like Corey Clement to put in there that can offset what's going on with Miles Sanders, a different speed, if you will, to change things up a little bit, I think that hurts Miles Sanders drastically. Not as much as that unhealthy offensive line, but I believe you got to have, especially in today's NFL, you have to have 3 guys that can carry the ball for you. You have to have 1 guy that can catch the ball for you out of the backfield. You have to have diversity in that backfield to make sure you're attacking defenses differently and keep them guessing, not knowing what's coming next. I think you have to have that. So the Jordan Howard signing, I know some people are like, oh, yeah, you keep Jordan Howard. Cool. I'm just, hey, he's a veteran running back. I'm happy to have him. We'll see how it goes in training camp. But the lead story, as far as I was concerned with the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday, was bringing in that linebacker, bringing in Wilson, and making sure that you have solidified your linebacking core, at least kicking it up a notch from what it was, I don't know, for the last 15 years? I mean, what's the last time? I mean, Nigel Bradham, Michael Kendricks was okay, but I feel like a lot of people were disappointed in his overall performance. But you now have 2 linebackers that I think are legit NFL linebackers. One, the obvious proven commodity is Wilson, and Alex Singleton is the guy that is still working his way through the NFL. And obviously a guy that the Eagles find some value in, being that they tendered him and they are bringing him back. And it seems like, by all early reports, your weak side linebacker and your middle linebacker are already sewn up between Alex Singleton and Eric Wilson. So great moves by good moves by Howie Roseman yesterday. I won't go too crazy. Surprising they did go after the linebacker, but I love to see that. And it seems like right now, Howie Roseman is at least off to a pretty solid start when it comes to the NFL offseason right now. The trade thing with the draft still is under my skin. Don't get me wrong. Still very much under my skin. However, it seems like at least bringing in some good personnel, some solid guys, no wow factor yet. It looks like if Howie is going to wow any of us, it's better happen on draft day. And here's how it would happen. And this is 3 weeks out from the NFL draft. It would wow me to see him get Devontae Smith. It would wow me to see him get Jalen Waddle. I would still be pissed that those guys are not Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts. But those are 2 guys in Waddle or Smith, obviously Alabama program. 2 guys that I would love to see in a Philadelphia Eagles jersey. I was high on Devontae Smith, like a lot of people were. And if he's still there at 12, now, again, going back to the conversation with Mike Kay yesterday, there's so much offensive talent that there might be a run on offensive players. By the time you get to 12, you might not have anybody of note available. So if that's the case, then the Eagles are just going to be out of luck. So they could go Patrick Surtain. They could go in that direction to make sure they get the corner. Personally, if you really want to make sure you're taking care of a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, you get him that weapon early, and I'm hoping that's the direction the Eagles go because they still need that offensive firepower. But also, they could use Zach Ertz on draft day as well, and I know that's one of the rumors that's starting to gain some momentum right now, possibly using Zach Ertz on draft day to get more picks. Keep them coming, Howie. Instead of drafting high to where it's idiot-proof, draft more where you're bound to hit on somebody, right? Let's hope for that. Before we talk to our guest today, Matt Breen of the Inquirer and Inquirer.com, I do want to tell you here at the Steven Singer Studios about my good friend, Steven Singer Jewelers. And I had a couple of friends reach out to me recently about getting engaged. A couple of friends reach out to me about going to Steven Singer. 3 actually in the last month. I sent them all to Steven Singer. That's what I'm doing. You know why? Because that's who I trust. That's who I tell my friends. That's who I tell my family. That's who I tell you people. Go to Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, especially right now because Mother's Day is just around the corner, and Steven Singer has a brand new rose for mom. How great is that? You want to take care of mom on Mother's Day? Well, guess what? You can take care of mom, and you can take care of a lot of other people, and I'll tell you how. Steven's brand new rose color is here for Mother's Day, so don't miss out on Sunshine Yellow. 24 karat gold, Sunshine Yellow. The new rose is brilliant. It's a brilliant shade of yellow that dazzles and sparkles. And Steven always likes to say that he's in the love business because he is in the love business. And this past year, we've seen just how important love is. In addition to brightening your loved one's day, Steven also wants to put a little sunshine in everyone's day. This is just wild what he's doing here. He's continuing to use a portion of each rose sold to support local restaurants by catering meals for all incredible nurses, doctors, first responders, and hospital heroes throughout the pandemic. So go to IHateStevenSinger.com and send a Sunshine Gold Dip Rose for this Mother's Day to your mom. It's a win-win-win. You'll give sunshine that lasts a lifetime to your mom. You'll get support. You'll support local restaurants by thanking our essential workers all at the same time, and you'll feel good doing it. How great is that? You can't go wrong with Steven Singer Jewelers. They come with a lifetime guarantee, free personalized gift message, fast and free shipping. Simply say, I love you, and honor mom on Mother's Day with this beautiful rose. Go to IHateStevenSinger.com. The other corner of 8th and Walnut, IHateStevenSinger.com. All right, here's what we got coming up. We got Matt Breen, Inquirer.com to join us. We also have Farzy in the field for you today, brought to you by FanUp. We have our social media check-in. I see the comments rolling in already. I appreciate that, everybody. And then we'll also give you our morning rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Without further ado, let's talk on the Zatos Investments guest line, our new friend of the show, Matt Breen from Inquirer.com, to talk all things Phillies. And joining us now on the Zatos Investments guest line to help us talk all things Phillies, who better than from Philadelphia Inquirer, Inquirer.com, Phillies beat reporter Matt Breen joining the show. Matt, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic because we've got a baseball team in this town that's all of a sudden kicking some butt to start the season, which is just so enjoyable to know that you're going to have at least a strong start to this season, and hopefully they can carry it into Atlanta for this little road trip they got going on now. But really, could you have scripted a better opening to the season than what you just saw for the last 2 series?
You couldn't, and especially not only did they win, but they won in front of fans. So how important was that to have fans at the ballpark for the first time in almost 2 years and to play the way they did? And it's interesting when you script it, you probably didn't script it the way that they won. You didn't script it with a good bullpen. If you watched the Phillies last year, there's no way you expected that. You probably scripted it with a little bit more home runs. You didn't see them until Wednesday series finale against the Mets. So you didn't. It didn't happen the way I thought it would have happened. But if I'm the Phillies, I don't care. You're in first place, and that's great.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And right now, every team except for the Flyers are in first place. But whatever, that's a story for another day. When it comes to this Phillies team, you're exactly right. This bullpen has, I think, exceeded a lot of people's expectations, even though there's a lot of guys that really never pitched for the Phillies before that are getting their debuts in right now with the Phillies. The only guy that really disappointed was Vince Velasquez, but obviously we know that story. But to see Archie Bradley come in, to see a guy like Alvarado go in there, to see guys come in out of the bullpen and really be great acquisitions, at least off to a great start here as acquisitions to the Phillies bullpen, has probably been the most pleasant surprise. How much can Phillies fans invest in this, thinking that this is the way it's going to be for the rest of the season?
It's obviously it's not going to be as locked down as it's been. But you can't expect that for an entire 162. But it's going to be a lot better than it was last year because, like you said, these are new faces. It's not like they tried to run it back with the 2020 bullpen. They got rid of pretty much all of those guys, a lot of new faces. And Jose Alvarado, a name you brought up, he's a pitcher that the Phillies, they couldn't find the last 5 years. They couldn't find a guy that, they talked a lot about finding value at the margins. And that means that yeah, you can sign Bryce Harper, but can you find the value on the small additions? And they couldn't find guys like that. And that's what winning teams do. That's what the Tampa Bay Rays do. That's what the LA Dodgers do. The Yankees, the Red Sox, like teams that win, they usually, they make the big additions, but they find a Jose Alvarado for nothing, comes out of their bullpen left-handed, throws 100 like it's, casually throws 100. And that's what they did. They found that they slot him in the bullpen. They went out and spent $6 million on Archie Bradley, who has experience, and has experience, yet he's not even their closer. That's how much talent they have in the bullpen, that they can have the luxury of having Bradley pitch the 7th or the 8th. Hector Neris, who I know a lot of people in this town, want to throw their arms in the air when Hector Neris comes in the game, but he's been a reliable closer for the last 3 years for the most part. He's the closer now. It doesn't mean he's the closer in July or August. But right now, they have a really good 7, 8, 9. And that's what you need. You need 3 arms in the bullpen. You need to be able to finish a game, and then you build around that. And if you have 7, 8, 9 figured out, the rest of it can kind of fall into place.
Yeah, certainly. One of the guys from an offensive standpoint, the bat certainly came alive in the season finale against the Mets, like you just referenced. Rhys Hoskins. I am really enjoying this version of Rhys Hoskins, and I'm hoping this is just a sneak preview of what we're going to see for the rest of the season here. He seems a lot more aggressive. He seems like he's willing to hit when he doesn't even have a strike on him yet. When yesterday, 2 days ago, he was down in the count 2-0 in the count, 2 balls to no strikes. And he still was aggressive at the plate and drove a ball to the left field wall and got a double out of it. You see the home run in the finale against the Mets as well. What do you see from him? I know last year he was talking about moving his hands down and his stances. What's he doing different other than just being more aggressive?
I think a lot of it is aggressiveness, because he has such great eye at the plate. And we talked about how he can work a walk. He knows the strike zone probably better than anybody in the lineup, but he has to match that with an aggressiveness. And I think this narrative about Rhys Hoskins would have been rewritten last September if he doesn't get hurt. We remember that freak injury he had at first base.
Yeah.
Phillies probably make the playoffs if he doesn't get hurt. He was their best hitter at the time. He missed the final 2-3 weeks of the season. If he doesn't get hurt, he keeps having a hot streak to end the season. That's what we're talking about. The Phillies, Rhys Hoskins carried them to the playoffs last year. Instead, he gets hurt, misses the rest of the season. Now you're seeing what you saw for the last stretch of last season is carried into this year. And a lot of talk of the narrative of Rhys Hoskins is he falls in these wicked slumps, which he does. But last year he fell into a slump to start the season and then pulled himself out of it. And he said that this winter, he learned that he learned how to snap a slump. That's something he couldn't really do. He used to end his seasons with these awful second halves, but last year he pulled himself out. I think that was a big growing experience for him. And right now you're seeing a guy that is comfortable where you have Harper and you have Real Muto. Those are the guys. You have Alec Boehm. The guys are probably going to carry this lineup, where Rhys Hoskins can be the guy that gets on base, doesn't necessarily have to hit, 17 homers in 17 days again. He can be just the guy that gets on base. And then, like you said, when he falls into a double, because of that great plate discipline and great eye, he can be aggressive and hit a double. That's who he is. He doesn't have to carry this team, but he's a great number 2 hitter because of his ability to get on base plus hit for power.
Sure, and I think he was down in the count 2-0 to Castro, and I was thinking, all right, he's going to try to work a walk, but wasn't the case. That's when he ended up hitting that double, which was, again, just great to see. So how much of that is just his mindset, his approach, and how much of that is Joe Girardi and his new coaching staff telling him to be more aggressive?
Yeah, Joe Dillon has had a huge track record in D.C. as the hitting coach there, assistant hitting coach in D.C., won a World Series with the Nationals, had a big impact on Juan Soto. Bryce Harper was well regarded with Bryce Harper in D.C. And last year, it was tough. In a 60-game season, you don't really get to see the fruits of that labor. It was a sprint. There's not really time to fix things, to work on things, where I think this year you're going to see more of the impact of Joe Dillon on the hitting group. You're going to see more of an impact, really, Joe Girardi, day-to-day managing a baseball team, where last year, your eye was on the finish line the whole time. And you were going through COVID for the first time of, wearing a mask and getting tested every day. And I think there was just a lot of, there was such expectations for Joe Girardi last year, and the Phillies didn't make the playoffs, so he fell short of those expectations. But I think you need to give him the full 162 to get the full Joe Girardi experience, for the lack of a better word. And I think you're seeing that from Joe Dillon as well.
Mm-hmm. It certainly seems like it. And to see the approach from Reese, it's been, other than watching the bullpen, it's been the best part of this young season so far. So let's talk a little bit about somebody that didn't impress so much here in the opening homestand of the season, and that was Vince Velasquez. What are the Phillies going to do with him? Because this is just not some short trend. He's in the bullpen, so at some point Joe Girardi was going to use him. He kept using him despite walking 4 batters, despite walking in a run against the Mets in Game 2 of this series. So what happens with Vince Velasquez? How many chances do you think he ends up getting this season?
It's tough because he can't be optioned to the minor leagues. He's making $4 million. He's not in the starting rotation. He really showed you the other night that he can't really be trusted in the bullpen. But he's got to be unless you trade him or you cut bait with him, but you still pay him $4 million. He's on the right. You have to make it work. And he did strike out the side in his first inning, right? So maybe he's not a long man because the long man goes out for that second inning and he walks 4 of the 5 batters he faces. So maybe that's not his role. Maybe he really is just a 1-inning guy, but that's tough because you need durability in the bullpen. You need length. You need more than one long man, especially this season when starting pitchers aren't, as the season goes on, they're not going to be able to go deep in the games consistently just because of playing a 60-game season last year. And you also need depth in the starting rotation. And Vince Velasquez is probably your 6th starter right now. So if they needed a spot starter, it's Vince Velasquez. But then you have to ask yourself, what is Vince Velasquez giving us if he is our 6th starter? Do we have that in the minor leagues? Probably, because it's, I don't know, it's a 5 innings maybe of 4-run ball at a best case scenario, really. Right. So it's a tough spot. When I talk about the bullpen and we talk about the bullpen, I think you can't, you almost have to separate him from the group. Really, there's,
I get you.
You know what I mean? It's like, I want to say the bullpen was great. And then you're like, well, how about that game where, Vince Velasquez and David Hale got hit around? It's like, yeah, all right. Well, we'll worry about them later. The bullpen itself is great. Vince Velasquez, I don't know I'm really curious to see how often he pitches because I can't see high leverage spots. I don't think that's where he's, going to be used.
Yeah, I'm the term mop up comes to mind when it comes to Vince Velasquez.
Mop up pitcher though.
What's that?
That's an expensive mop-up guy.
I totally agree with you. At least you're getting something out of it. It's not even – it's like, yeah, sure, it's the mop-up guy, but it's also the guy that's making sure the other guy that's more valuable to you in terms of wins and losses, maybe not as financially, but it's making sure that guy's not using his arm in a period you don't want him to use his arm.
Yeah, it's not our money, so.
Yeah, it's exactly. So let me ask you about another arm, Spencer Howard. What's going on with him? Apparently wasn't that impressive in spring training. Finds himself minor league camp. What can we expect from Spencer Howard in the not too distant future?
Yeah, he had back spasm in spring training, but he looked when he was healthy in his first. It wasn't a start, but his first game in spring training, he looked good, and looked like he maybe was in contention for a rotation spot. But then the back acted up, and I think it really gave them either a warning or a convenient excuse to have the reins on Spencer Howard pulled back a little bit. He's never thrown more than 100 innings in a professional season. Last year, he threw 24 and a third, I think, and in the majors was back and forth between the alternate site. So how do you use him this year in the major leagues with also the eye on 2022 and have him ready to pitch a full season in the starting rotation? And that's what they're going to have to figure out. He's in Allentown right now. He's probably going to be used in the majors this year out of the bullpen. So maybe he takes the Vince Velasquez role of being, the long one of the long men out of the bullpen. But you're not going to be able to pitch him every day because he's never really done that role. Plus, you have to monitor his innings. It's just like we talk about Vince Velasquez being a complicated situation, but this is a complicated situation for Spencer Howard that impacts next season, impacts your long-term view because no matter what his role is right now, he's a key piece going forward. He's in this rotation in 2024, you're thinking right now. So you can't, as tempting as it is with this team competing for a playoff spot later this summer, you want to throw him out there every fifth day, or you want to put him in the bullpen and have him pitch the seventh inning every night, you probably can't do that. You're going to have to kind of use him as a every third or fourth day he gets to pitch out of the bullpen, maybe 2 or 3 innings or something like that. It's going to be interesting to see, and it's probably one of the storylines of the second half once Spencer Howard gets closer to the majors, to see how they're going to handle that.
As far as another young person, but a young bat in the lineup right now at the major league level, I do want to ask you about Alec Boehm. Hit just a blast in Game 3 against the Mets here. Center field over the angled wall, so to speak. I am just really looking forward to seeing this guy only get better. What's impressed you so far to this point? Really not just this year, but going back to last year as well when it comes to Alec Boehm.
His ability to hit with runners in scoring position, with men on base, in key spots. Just, he didn't look like a rookie last year, and he doesn't look like a second-year player this year. You look at his total plate appearance, it's like amazing how little he has played, just because, what you see. He just looks like he's been around. He no spot's too big for him. And his defense, really, we knew he could hit in the minors, but everybody wanted to talk about, well, he's going to play first base or left field, or, they better have a DH because that's where he's going to have to hit.
Right.
But I think he holds his own at third base. He has a really good arm. He's tall, which it's hard to be a tall third baseman, but he makes it work. He's still has room to grow, of course. It hasn't been perfect, but he hasn't been, a butcher at third base either. So I just think with his bat in the lineup, and I don't want to keep talking about last season because it's over, but if he's on the opening day roster in 2020, Phillies probably make the playoffs. Alec Boehm was worth one win, and I think that's a huge X factor this season. How much better that we talk about the bullpen, how much better the bullpen is, but how much better is the lineup on opening day 2021 than versus 2020 when you have Alec Boehm at third base? It's just, it's almost night and day. That's how much of a difference he makes.
Absolutely. I'm just so impressed with really the defensive improvement. I mean, like you said, we knew that he could bat, we knew that he could hit, professional hitter, whatever you want to call it. But he just seems like a much more calm within himself third baseman than he did last year. And, of course, you mentioned the height. Seeing him snag 2-line drives that would be over an average third baseman's head really helped out this bullpen, and also helped out the starting rotation as well.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He I know, like, everybody works hard and everybody has a work ethic, but when he got his signing bonus after he got drafted, one of the first things he did was he actually didn't rent it. He bought a condo on Sand Key in Clearwater Beach so he could spend his offseason in Clearwater and work out on his defense and become a better third baseman. And that, instead of being he's from Omaha, Nebraska. So instead of being in Nebraska in the wintertime, he's in Florida, which, is a bonus. But to me, that showed a lot that's where his head's at. He wanted to be close to the spring training site, to be there in December and January, to be training at third base. And then once spring training starts, who's he attached to is Larry Bowa, who, the greatest, probably the second best defensive shortstop in Phillies history, but probably the best fielding instructor the Phillies have ever had. And I think you've seen a lot of improvements from that work that he put in Clearwater. You're seeing that now at Citizens Bank Park.
Matt Breen joining us here, Inquirer.com, Phillies beat writer. 5-1, nice way to start the season. So let's take a bird's eye view at all this and look at a full 162. What is the most realistic thing that Phillies fans can look forward to? A wild card berth, winning the division, keeping a similar pace to this where you feel like a dominant team throughout. What is your expectation, and what should Phillies fans' expectations be by the end of the 162?
My personal expectations, I don't know how this season's going to turn out because it's just the division's so tough. But on paper, the Phillies are up with the Mets and the Nationals and the Marlins and the Braves. They're equal with them. But in the past, we've seen how the Septembers have went and how the second halves have went. So going into the year, it was tough for me to say, they're a playoff team. But I don't want to take too much from 6 games of the season. And say, yeah, of course, they're in first place after 6 games. They're going to win the East. But that being said, I think the expectations, it's fair to have expectations in this town to say this is a playoff team. This is a wild card team. You're probably going to see the second wild card come out of the West. I mean, one of the wild cards come out of the West, so that leaves one for the East to win. That's two NL East teams making the playoffs. And yeah, I would be, if you're a Phillies fan and it's April 8th, and you're going to think that, the Phillies have no chance to make the playoffs, that's foolish. Of course, they have three great starting pitchers. We talked about the bullpen. We talked about the lineup. There's no excuse this year for them to not make the playoffs. It's that has to be the goal, and I think that goal is definitely in reach, especially with that wild card.
All right, so I just looked it up while you're giving me that answer. I have decided that the Phillies season does not start officially until May 18th. That is the first series against the Miami Marlins, who the Phillies could seem to never beat. So, you know what? Go ahead and beat the crap out of the Mets. Go ahead and beat the crap out of the Braves. I'm not going to believe in this season until they go and take care of business against the Fish. That's it. That's what I decree. May 18th is the official opening day.
They could sweep the Dodgers. They could sweep the Yankees. But, I'm not a believer until they go to Miami and they take care of the Marlins.
Yeah, it's been next to impossible for them, Matt. So I think you and I are on the same page. I appreciate that. Matt Breen, Inquirer.com. You do a great job covering the Phillies. Make sure you're following Matt Breen on Twitter. Matt, I appreciate you coming on with us, my man. Get back to your family. Thanks so much for talking Phils with us.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it.
On the Zatos Investments guest line, friend of the show, Matt Breen. And how about Matt Breen, ladies and gentlemen? How about Matt Breen? Yeah, as I said, I'm going to be pushing some buttons here, and I'm going to be doing a lot of the production here, just because that's the way the world works today. But my thanks to Matt for joining the show. Always good to have him on the program and have a conversation. Excuse me, always good to talk Phillies with him, rather, when it comes to all things Philadelphia Phillies. Is everything working? I think everything's working. We're going to check in on our social media check-in in a minute, give you our morning rush. We're also going to let you hear from Farzy in the field that we did yesterday at Citizens Bank Park. But right now, I do have to tell you about our friends at DraftKings. Basketball teams entering the final month of the regular season as they gear up for the playoffs. So much is going on. Looking at teams as locked to make the playoffs. Other teams are fighting for their playoff opportunity and their shot to win the big trophy. So much is going on. Make sure you're getting involved in all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook and DraftKings Sportsbook app. That's right. America's top-rated sportsbook app, putting you in the center of the action right now with your chance to turn $1 into $100 in free bets. Turning $1 into $100, simple, easy. Pick any basketball team to win their next game, and if during that game the team of your choosing hits a three, you bring home $100 in free bets. That's $100. It's 100 to 1 odds if a team of your choosing just hits a three to win. This year, teams have been hitting threes at an unprecedented rate. So make sure you get in on this action with DraftKings Sportsbook. It's safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy. To make sure you take advantage of this $1 you can turn into $100. That's promo code Farzy to turn $1 into $100 in free bets for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. How about Zatos Investments? Talk about our friends at Zatos Investments, ZatosInvestments.com. Up-and-coming luxury real estate development and investment company in the Philadelphia area. They design and develop top-of-the-line custom homes around the city, ranging from small single-family rehabs to ground-up new construction and condo buildings as well. Zatos also works closely with their private investor base to provide them with substantial returns on their investment, ranging from 20 to 40%. These guys are crushing it right now in the Philadelphia real estate game, so make sure you check them out to see their properties and also learn more about Zatos Investments, how you can invest with Zatos Investments. Reach out to them at info@ZatosInvestments.com or simply visit ZatosInvestments.com. And FanUp. Let's talk about FanUp. Are you fanning up, folks? You better be. You want to get involved? You want to win some great brand prizes? You want to challenge some friends? You could do that with the FanUp app. Go to the App Store, download the FanUp app, use promo code FanUp, and get 2,000 bonus points right out of the gate. You can win a pair of Jordans, Peloton bike, the mirror thing you work out in front of as well, and it gives you the personal trainer, like a hologram. It's incredible. We're in the future, folks. We're flying cars away from the Jetsons, I'm telling you. But make sure you get involved with FanUp. Squad up with your friends to make it even more fun. One of the things I like doing, making a bet with a friend of mine, putting in FanUp, and all of a sudden you have a nice little gentleman's bet going on. Documented, by the way, with FanUp, and you could rise on their leaderboard. You could be the real MVP with FanUp. Like I said, it's the only place that you can win brand prizes as well. Those Jordans, a Louis Vuitton bag too. All sorts of great stuff at FanUp. Download the FanUp app in the App Store right now. 2,000 bonus points. FanUp, may the best fan win. Speaking of FanUp, before we get to our social media check-in, and I got the access to all the comments coming in here on Twitch, on Twitter, on the Facebook, all that stuff, all right here. I'm going to rattle off a couple for you, and I look forward to that. It's the first time I actually have this much access to all your comments, so I'm looking forward to it. It almost reminds me of my sports radio days of taking calls. Like, this is what it's like. I look forward to it. So we'll do that in just a second. But before we do that, brought to you by our good friends at FanUp, with people being back at the ballpark for the first time in over a year, 18 months, I had to go down. I had to meet the people of Philadelphia. I had to meet the Phillies fans outside Citizens Bank Park to just talk to them and get their vibe as they go into the stadium at the close of the first homestand of the new season. So without further ado, here's a little Farzy in the field brought to you by our good friends at FanUp. What is it like to be back for the first homestand of the season?
We cried a little, okay? On the way over, we cried a little.
Feels great. Feels great. I couldn't wait to get down here. It's been so long, too long. I wish I was part of that gang out there last season.
Very excited. Can't wait to get in there.
Unbelievable, man. Beautiful weather.
Amazing.
You know, the amazing fans we got in the city of Philadelphia.
Feeling the love.
What are you looking forward to the most about being back at the ballpark?
A Phillies win would be great.
The popcorn and the ice cream.
Okay, you know what? We have our priorities. I understand that you guys have a little reunion here, right?
So the last time we saw each other was in Clearwater last year during spring training. Did not go this year. Already made reservations for next year. Here we are.
There we are. How beautiful is
Here we
that?
are.
It's great. It's great.
Just great that get to get fans in. And small, limited capacity, but we're excited to be down here.
All right, now you have something extra special because you're not just here, like right here, but you're also up there. I understand that's you and your daughters.
That's right. The girls saw me and they say, Dad, we're famous.
That's so incredible. It's absolutely incredible. What are your expectations for the Phillies this season?
Well, it was nice to see them beat the Mets in the ground the other night.
Yeah.
I think they could sneak into a wild card, man. It's gonna be an exciting year.
And yes, you too, the Mets fan. What's it like to be back at Citizens Bank Park?
Well, I couldn't be more excited. This is my first baseball game since 2019. So, you know, I'm very grateful that the Phillies fans are welcoming people from New York.
All right, well, enjoy it while it lasts, because it won't last long. What are your expectations for the Phillies this season?
Well, that goes unsaid. We, are
away.
hoping for October baseball is what we're hoping for, but
World Series.
they've been so much fun to watch the past couple nights.
Hopefully, like you said, we're back here in October talking to you, watching the World Series
All right,
games.
well, if that happens, I'll see you guys right here back in October, all right?
Thanks,
We'll be
Marc.
here.
Perfect. Thanks. Can I ask you, I love your hat. What are you guys thinking about the Phillies this year?
Excited.
Okay, perfect. How about you?
Happy!
Well,
Go Phillies.
Go Phillies!
my thanks to all the people that talked to me yesterday. It was a lot more than that. I fit in what I could. So if you did talk to me, you're looking for you. I hope I got you in. I hope I got you in there. But so those ladies, they were actually, I believe, Navy reserves. The two nice ladies I spoke to there, and they were just friends. And they were just they would meet in Clearwater, and then this was the first time they got to meet each other in well over a year. So how great is that? Bringing people together, and one Mets fan with the group of Phillies fans. You know what? Yeah, I like the idea of welcoming people from out of town just so we can all be together again, all hang out. It's beautiful. Baseball bringing people together. Thank you to the good people to fan up. I'm seeing the comments. Love the comments. Thanks to all the people that fan up for bringing us Farzy in the field this week, as always. It's been a while since we did Farzy in the field. We had some terrible weather. It's hard to do that indoors nowadays, given what's going on. So it's good that we were able to get back out there and talk to the good people of Philadelphia, all the Phillies fans outside CBP. Without further ado, let's jump into our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Check out steakandmaine.com. All stuff that's going on is great. One of my first comments that I saw this morning, Jay Sean Farzy, what's happening? Harrison checking in saying good morning. Well, good morning to you. Jay Sean saying Nola was scary yesterday, but he'll be fine. I agree with you. Not worried even a little bit. Where's my Twitch guy? Yeah, Michael. I'm getting it now. Michael Scarn. Nice. What was it? Zero Dark Midnight? What was the name of the movie from The Office? Zero Dark Midnight. I think that was what it is. I feel like that's wrong. But he's saying, can you play Call of Duty instead of talking sports? I don't play Call of Duty. I am terrible with the video game scene. So I apologize to people checking us out on Twitch, maybe for the first time today. I play games that are like at least 3 years old. Like the game I was most recently playing, non-sports, was Hunter Call of the Wild. And I was playing it because I'm a big fan of that show Meat Eater, and it's on Netflix. I'm not a hunter. I've really never gone hunting. But this show I started watching around the time my daughter was born because I would just, I'd be up at like, whatever it was to for early feeding for my little girl. And I would just put something on Netflix that I'm like, I don't really know anything about this, so let me watch this for a little bit. Like I don't know anything about hip hop or rap or how it all began. So I watched the evolution of hip hop on Netflix. Amazing. All stuff in there about DJ Herc back in the day, the first hip hop party in New York. It was just awesome to learn about that stuff because it influences our culture so much. And then I saw this little Meat Eater, and I'm like, well, I eat meat. What's this about? And it's a hunting show with this guy, Steve Ranella. Actually, the most recent season, Pete Alonso of the Mets is on it because he's a hunter, and he loves this guy, Steve Ranella, so he actually went on the show. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, it's out in the wilderness. So I guess during pandemic, I was feeling closed off, so I wanted to be out in the wild. And then I found this video game, Hunter Call of the Wild, that literally is you just walking around the forest. And it's not bloody or anything like that. Like, it's not an over-the-top violent game. But you basically hunt, and you walk around, and that's the closest thing I've really done to hunting. But anyway, pretty cool game. That's the only game, other than Madden. I was into Far Cry for a while. Maybe I could rock out some Far Cry on Twitch for you. Phase up Farzy. All right, Michael Scarn. Free Ertz. I think that goes back to our draft conversation and possibly trading Zach Ertz on draft day. I think it's very much in play for the Eagles. I think it's very much in play for Howie Roseman to trade Zach Ertz on draft day. Because look, maybe you take a third-round pick, maybe you take a fourth-round pick, you package that with Zach Ertz, you move into the second. Maybe that's something you could pull off, and that's something I had talked about a while ago. First down, Frank agrees with Philly 4-for-4 King. Cut Vince Velasquez. I'm not opposed to it, but as Matt Breen just told us, you're talking about $4 million right there. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but I think the Phillies are up against it right now when it comes to how much they're willing to spend. I wouldn't be opposed to it. This is something that we've known about Vince Velasquez for quite some time. The sample size is not small anymore, folks. We know the deal when it comes to Vinny Velo. We know what happens next. This has to be a guy that it's a quick stop. It's weird to say it about a guy who was supposed to go 6, 7, or 8 innings as a starting pitcher, and now you're talking about maybe he can give you 1 inning. Maybe he can give you 1. Don't ask for anything more because that's when things blow up in your face as it did the other day in Game 2 against the Mets. So maybe you just have to learn how to manage him properly. Maybe that's something that you got to do here. But I just think we all believe that he's just not that good of a pitcher. And how crazy is this? We're talking about the Phillies bullpen, and the guy that we're not complaining about, but stating facts about the most is Vinny Velo. And by the way, can he lose? Is it Vinny Velo done? Can we just stop with the nickname? I feel like you have to be good to have that name. But anyway, that's the story on Vince Velasquez. People kicking around the idea of bringing up Spencer Howard. Yeah, Spencer Howard is a little older. I see people mentioning that. Let's see. Jay Shaw checking in again, saying, I pictured you as an outdoorsman who kills and eats squirrels. I don't. They do that on the show. And I get squirrels in my backyard in Philly. And I thought about it. Not going to do it, though. Philly 4-for-4 King saying, so you just go around killing digital Bambi for fun. It ain't Bambi. I only shoot the bucks in the digital video game, or in the video game, okay? I only shoot the bucks. Big moose. If a bear attacks me, hey, man, fair game. Let's party. But yeah, just the digital world. If there's no injuries, I don't think him and Roman Quinn will be with the team at the end of the month. I think Roman Quinn has a spot on this team. Roman Quinn got hit by a pitch yesterday, stole second, stole third, scored. Like, that doesn't happen unless you have blazing speed. That's at least one attribute of Roman Quinn that is it's the best attribute of Roman Quinn. What the hell am I saying? And it's one of the few. Here's the thing. I know a lot of people are screaming about Odubel Herrera right now. I don't have a lot of confidence in Odubel Herrera. And I know, look, I'd rather have unproven talent than kind of knowing what I'm going to get from Odubel Herrera. Odubel Herrera, people remember as this, like, the all-star season that he had. I think he is he's akin to Dominic Brown. I don't think he'll ever recapture that majesty that he had for a brief period of time. I don't think he'll ever do that again. And people forget about everything else that Odubel Herrera did. People will focus on the off-the-field stuff, and I get it. But just talk about it from a baseball perspective here. From a baseball perspective, Odubel Herrera Odubel Herrera and Ben Revere have like two of the lowest baseball IQs of the Philadelphia Phillies of the last 20 years. Like, I don't have any yearning for Odubel. Oh, Odubel Herrera will save us. Could he be better than Adam Hazley and Roman Quinn? Yeah, all right. That's not exactly a high bar. So if it's not exactly a high bar, I'd rather stick with a guy who was a top 10 pick and Adam Hazley to see what he can give you at the plate and see what he can progress to. Guy was close to a 270 hitter last year. I'd rather invest in that pick as opposed to worry about what I've invested financially in Odubel Herrera. As far as Roman Quinn goes, you got speed, and that's about it. So come on, Adam Hazley, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Agree with him, the full shot. We know Odubel can hit. Really? Do we know Odubel can hit? I don't think he hit the last time. I want to look up his numbers as far as Odubel Herrera goes most recently, because when I looked at his numbers in spring training, not his spring training numbers, because I don't care about that, but his overall numbers just as a big leaguer, the last 3 seasons I remember going, oh, wow, that's right, but he was an all-star. I'll look it up for you a little bit later, but we'll jump to that maybe tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more about Odubel Herrera getting back involved in the Phillies offense. I think it was, I don't even know what that is. Anyway, so thanks to everyone that's checked in on the show. I appreciate that. And I'm glad I'm getting to see all these mentions pop up. Maybe one day I will just rock out some video games just for the Twitch people, because I know how popular that is on Twitch, and rightfully so. Maybe all the time I spent playing video games as a kid, maybe it'll finally pay off here in the professional life for me, where I can entertain some of your curiosities about my video game techniques. Maybe I'll play a couple of you in Madden. Can you do that on Twitch? Probably. Anyway, thanks to everyone that checked in on our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine and steakandmaine.com. Make sure you check that out. Time for our Morning Rush segment. The Morning Rush is brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. No pun intended. Well, let's start it off with basketball. I always like to give basketball tip of the cap to basketball first in the NBA. Sixers don't play again until tomorrow night when they play the Pelicans, who just played the Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant made his return. Kevin Hart. James Harden is out right now with that hamstring injury. He's going to miss 10 days at least. So Kevin Durant came. Isn't it funny how it's been working with the Nets? One guy comes in, another guy goes out. It's like they're resting for the postseason. What do you know? But yesterday, Kevin Durant came back 19 minutes, scored 17 points in those 19 minutes. Nets beat the Pelicans 139 to 111 with no James Harden. Yeah, enough firepower in that lineup, to say the least. I missed this story yesterday, and I'm embarrassed because I love this movie so much. The Sandlot debuted yesterday, April 7th, 1993. Apparently a bunch of sports movies came out on that day. But The Sandlot came out. The Sandlot is one of my all-time favorite movies. Not just sports movies, one of my all-time favorite movies. And it's one of those movies that whenever I see it, I lose my mind. And I go back to being in 4th grade Fourth grade when that movie came out. And I just remember thinking it was the greatest thing ever. And I'm transferred back in time. I go in the Wayback Machine every time that movie's on, or every time I see a clip from that movie, and I'm just blown away by it. It was because that's exactly what I wanted to do as a kid. Everybody on my block, I wanted to play baseball every single day. I wish I had that Sandlot. Instead, I had to settle for, basically Little League all the time. But in my generation, it was like baseball was starting to go on the outs. And then Ripken had the streak, and that started drawing people's eyes back to baseball after the strike. And then Sosa and McGuire brought a whole tidal wave of people back to the sport. And then the sport just got boring again for a lot of people. But it was like my generation it felt like the first to almost rebel against a parent's generation, the baby boomers, my parents' baby boomers, almost to rebel against them and almost be like, yeah, we're pretty good on baseball. We don't really need this. We have football. We have basketball. Hey, this hockey thing's kind of cool. So that was unfortunate. But Sandlot always brings me back to my childhood when it comes to just how much of a baseball fan I was as a kid and still am today. And every time I think about it, it brings back some great memories. Tiger Woods information about the crash came out yesterday. And it's some extension, the extension of his my man Mike Fuji checking in here. What's up, brother? Benny the Jet Rodriguez. You damn right. PF Flyers guaranteed to run faster and jump higher. Actually, my wife and I, our wedding song was This Magic Moment, which was when Squints Palladorus kisses Wendy Peppercorn when he fake drowns. Anyway, beautiful story. So what's up, Mike? Thanks for checking in on the show. Always good to hear from you, my friend. Tiger Woods. Apparently, he was going 84 to 87 miles per hour when he was going around the turn. And I wish I had the proper verbiage in front of me, but I don't. But the way the police announced it or phrased it was amazing. His speed exceeded the appropriate speed for the turn, to manage the turn. Negotiate, I think, was the first phrase they used. Negotiate the turn. And it reminded me of like being a kid again and being like, Mom, I didn't necessarily break the window. The baseball broke the window. It was like the way you phrase something. Lennox Lewis, former heavyweight champion of the world, had a thing where he had a guy's head under his arm, and he said, I didn't put him in a headlock and punched him. His head was under my arm as I hit him. And it was like, with that British accent, that sounds like you were doing him a favor. But the way they phrased it, I thought was interesting. Bottom line is, he was speeding going around the turn, and that's how the accident happened. And I think that's what most people didn't want to jump to any conclusions, but I think that's what most people expected to hear from yesterday. No narcotics, not under the influence, no medication, nothing like that. But around the turn, he was going around 84 to 87 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. So that's what happened with Tiger Woods in the accident. Masters, of course, get underway today. A tradition unlike any other. The Masters. So make sure you guys will be following that. One quick thing I do want to reference before I get out of here with Rhys Hoskins. 7 extra base hits so far this season. 7 extra base hits. Only J.D. Martinez of the Boston Red Sox has more. He has 8 extra base hits on the season. So like we were saying, Rhys Hoskins has just one incredible start under his belt. And how about this for Rhys? We've talked about the bullpen, and we've phrased it similar to a 30 for 30. What if I told you the Phillies bullpen had 4 of their first 5 wins of the season? What if I told you that? Well, what if I told you Rhys Hoskins would be batting .417 to start out the season? The on-base percentage for Rhys Hoskins, also .417. And why is that? Because Rhys Hoskins, through 6 games so far this year, has not even walked. Zero walks for Rhys Hoskins so far this year in 6 games. He's got 10 hits, 6 doubles, a home run, 4 runs batted in, 19 total bases to lead the Phils. I am blown away the season Rhys Hoskins is putting together for himself. How about Big Bets? Big Bet segment brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. So I'm on a win. I'm still riding a win. I'm sticking to what I know right now, but I'm just going to say this. I feel like the Nets are going to do something during this time with the Kevin Durant out, or excuse me, Kevin Durant coming back and James Harden out. I feel like they're just going to start, how do I phrase this? poop canning teams. So I'll be keeping an eye on them. Sixers back in action tomorrow night. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that line when it comes to what they're doing on DraftKings going up against the Pelicans, especially after the beating the Pelicans just took. Sixers back in action. I'm going to be following them after an awful, win, lose, win, lose, 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 win, win, lose, lose, lose type of thing I got going on right now. I'm looking for consistency, and that's the key to the betting world, some consistency. So I'm going to try to stick with the Sixers, stick with what I know, and kind of break away from what I was doing earlier in the season, which was stay the hell away from the Sixers. But I'll have a big bet for you tomorrow, that's for sure, most likely on that Sixers game. So we'll talk about that. Inside the Birds, what's still golf pick. Golf pick. I kind of like Dustin Johnson. The guy that I feel like the Masters, and Dustin Johnson, obviously the defending champion, also Mr. Gretzky himself. But I feel like Rory McIlroy is a name we haven't talked about enough about in golf recently. And there's something about Rory McIlroy that I might just place a couple of bucks on really quickly when it comes to the Masters. If you're asking me, not the obvious choice, Dustin Johnson. If you're asking me somebody a little bit under the radar, Rory McIlroy is the guy we haven't talked about in a while. I wouldn't be surprised if he won this Masters this year. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting on the show. It was great following all your comments on all our platforms. We're going to get the show up on YouTube. We weren't on YouTube today. We're going to get the show up on YouTube in the very near future, and also download the podcast as always. When you do go to our show, The Farzy Show on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Twitch, I haven't interacted with you guys for like the vast majority of the near 2.5 months we've been on. So thank you for everyone that paid attention on Twitch as well. Great talking to you throughout the morning. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Enjoy the Masters. Thanks for watching. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. I'm Marc Farzetta here at the Steven Singer Studios. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow for a Friday edition of The Farzy Show. Have a great rest of the day, everybody. Take it easy.